Leave your ego at the door and get ready to be raw. This is Strength to Overcome, where real men find their strength in weakness. All right, guys, welcome back to the Strength to Overcome podcast. I'm Ryan, here with my co-host Matt, as always, and this week we have a special guest on the show. She's an old friend and trainer of Matt's from back in the 180 Fitness days. She's currently the head coach at FitBody Bootcamp in Roanoke, and we're super pumped to have Margaux Bellinger on the show today. Margaux, how are you?
Hey, what's up, guys? Super excited to be here.
This is very surreal. It's probably going to take me the whole episode just to believe that this is actually unfolding. I call you B, I always have, and I hope that's not offensive, but that's just how I've always known you and remembered you. But, for the audience out there, B was well, I tell you what, why don't we, because my memory is so bad, why don't we let you share your recollection of the story, because I'm probably going to butcher it. So, B, go ahead and unroll your memory of this story here, please.
Okay. We want to start from where the nickname came from, I guess.
You can start from the
very beginning,
of the meeting, because I honestly was reaching for it just there. I didn't have it, and I'm like, wait a minute.
How did it happen?
Yeah.
Let's see. So we got to go back to 2013, I think. So gosh, that was such a long time ago. Yeah, 2013. I had just moved into Roanoke and was living with my boyfriend, my husband now, and was fresh out of some school and fresh out of getting my personal training certification, and was in need of a job and had never done anything before. I was a young buck and had no idea what I was doing, and had been, I guess, looking around at different gyms trying to find my place to go. And I magically drove past 180 going to, I don't know, Lowe's or Chick-fil-A, who knows, and saw the sign, and I immediately called, and Matt was like, come on in. So I did, and I met Matt and a bunch of the other crew that was there. Then I think Ryan had maybe just left. So like our paths maybe just barely, crossed for a half second. But so came in, and Matt was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I have no idea. Can you help me? So Matt was like, all right, well, let's just figure it out and let's get you training. So basically for, I don't know, maybe 2, 3, maybe even 4 months, basically just came into the gym every day and just started working out with you and Fry. And y'all handed my ass to me for a good couple of months. And I really learned how to put together a workout because of Matt. And after a couple months, I put Matt and Robert through a couple workouts, and then Matt was like, okay, it's time. You need a client to put through this. So Matt there was a brand new couple coming in, Renee. I still talk to her occasionally, and she was my very first client. And basically, so Matt calls me B because it was short for newbie. I was the newbie of the group. So newbie then turned into just short for B, and it kind of worked out perfectly because after I got married, my last name became Bellinger. So now my nickname, everyone calls me MB. So it's kind of stuck. So throughout the years, now I'm Coach MB. Everyone calls me MB. It's like, and I still call myself B. It's like, all right, B, let's go. So it really stuck. And a lot of the things that Matt instilled in me at that very first training job it's still in my brain all the time. So Matt kind of really set the tone for who I was going to be as a trainer. And it's really stuck after, 12, 13 years now. So that's kind of where I got started. And I hung around at 180 for like 7 or 8 years. Like I stuck around after Matt was gone and hung out there for a while. And then paths led me into a different direction to go into group fitness. And I've now ended up at FitBody Bootcamp, and they said, hey, you want to lead the charge? And I was like, absolutely. So here I am leading the charge. And it all started with Matt and 180 Fitness. So And I'm so like mind blown that we're all here right now. And, it was only, half a year ago that Ryan came into FitBody one day and I was like, are you the infamous Margaux? And I was like, what the heck is happening here? I mean, full circle happening all because of 180. So it's really special to be here right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of cool that I was able to see that. For folks out there who are wondering how I got into that position, we were getting ready to move away from Roanoke. I was getting ready to sell my gym downtown, and I just needed an outlet, needed to get away. And so not a lot of people know this, but I actually joined FitBody Bootcamp and just happened to cross paths with Margaux that way. And I'd only heard of her up to that point. I'd heard her name because it is a unique name. Not many people are named
It is.
Margaux in Roanoke, right?
There's not many.
So when I ran into you there, I was like, "Wow, this is her!" And but it was kind of cool to see the operation there. And I know we'll touch on that here in a little bit. But like you said, that was 12 years ago, and you've kind of been to a number of different locations since then, right? I know you were at 180, and then where did you go from there?
So 180, I split my time with 180 and then went to Burn Bootcamp. And then eventually I loved it so much, I left 180 completely. I was kind of tired of doing the one-on-one stuff. So I went full time at Burn Bootcamp and I was there for a couple of years. And then I kind of had a segue into turning into a social media manager. So I worked with Roanoke Outside for about a year. But there was a new gym that was opening up called ISI. They opened up over in Cave Spring. And I was like, well, I still want to coach a little bit. There's this brand new place opening up. So I went over there, coached there for about 6 months. And, just a couple of things ownership wise, it was, just wasn't the right fit. And so I decided I'm going to stick to doing the social media stuff. I'm really burnt out on coaching and training. And I think I'm done with coaching. And so I left ISI. And at that point, I was like, okay, I don't want to coach anymore, but I still need somewhere for me to go work out. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go try FitBody. It's one of the last ones around. It's been here for a while. Let's go see what they're all about. Nobody knows me there, so I can just kind of quietly go into the gym and get my workouts in. Nobody's going to be like, oh, you're a coach. So I kept it under wraps for a few months. And then, you start to get to know people and they figured out who I was. And so had been at FitBody for, I guess, 3 or 4 months. And then the owners, Josiah, he was like, you're a coach and I'm pretty sure you're going to start coaching here. And I was like, no, I'm not coaching. I'm done with it. I do not want to be on the mic anymore. I'm done with it. This is just my happy place for me to come work out. And then about 2 months later, I was like, hey, yeah, I'll coach because I just loved it so much. The people there were fantastic. The ownerships, I can't say enough good things about the owners and what they instill in our team. And so I ended up at FitBody, and now 6 months later, I've turned into the head coach there. So it's, well, I guess maybe a year later, but yeah, 6 months to a year, turned into the head coach. So there was a few moments where I was like, I'm never coaching. I'm never doing personal training again. It's burnout. I'm done with it, trying something new. And then somehow it just fell back into my lap and I couldn't resist it. And I'm so glad that I did. So I'm back to doing what I love and just needed a fresh place, a fresh set of eyes and a fresh team. So here we are, back at it.
It's funny because, you've shared so much there about how, you drove past and popped in, and I've got so many questions. This could be a 5-hour podcast if we're not careful. But I'd like to fast forward to, the most, current 12 months, because you've mentioned it, and then you've mentioned it again, and you've mentioned it a third time. And I think everybody on this podcast can relate to what you've just said, and the word is burnout. And, having started my training career more than 2 decades ago now, and having had my own facility and working for multiple clubs and big box gyms, I've climbed the top to, to a high level, even out in Crunch, California. I recently had a pretty big opportunity to get back into a high position out there. And there's that constant theme that runs through this industry of burnout. And I've always told people that are wanting to get into the business, you know, the average lifespan of a trainer is about 2 years. But the veterans, the ones that, you know, really belong in it or have got something else to offer, you know, seem to go a little bit longer. So walk me through, if you don't mind, a deeper dive into what you're saying is burnout. Give me some examples of what was happening in your life that made you want to step away from it.
So I guess when I was at ISI, I was working kind of full time in a completely different industry. I was in an office job and I was really loving it. And it was a really cool background doing social media. And I really loved doing all of that. So I was really kind of focused in on that. And then while I was at ISI, it was a brand new gym, an owner that had never owned a gym before. He didn't live in town. And we had coaches just kind of coming in and out, and people that had never coached before. They didn't really know what they were getting themselves into. So it turned into, since I was a veteran, basically at that point, it turned into me kind of running the whole facility, basically felt like by myself, but trying to teach these other new coaches how to coach and trying to keep track of all of the members and the clients. And when you start your day, especially when you're at a group fitness place, you start your day at 4:30 in the morning. So I would be coaching a 5 a.m. session, a 6 a.m. session, a 7 a.m. session, a 9 a.m. session, and they're, you know, roughly an hour long. And then I would go to my day job from 10 until 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then I'd have to go back to the gym and coach 2, 3 more sessions from 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 8 o'clock at night, and then not getting home till 9 p.m. because you got to set up, you got to do all this stuff. So, I mean, it turned into really long, exhausting days. And, you know, as coaches, we're not just standing there and, you know, telling people what to do. I mean, the amount of activity that you have to do going through teaching these classes, it just wears on your body. I mean, there'd be days where, you know, I'm sleeping 3 hours a night, basically, and you're running just on whatever fumes you've got. And then, so towards the end of the summer, I started to realize, like, I don't have the support in this gym from coaches and owners that I know that I can get, and it's just not happening. I didn't feel like I was in the place that I was supposed to be. And I was just so tired of waking up and, you know, carrying everything on my back and going into another job and trying to separate the coaching from another job. And it just kind of really turned into pure exhaustion. And it really took away the joy of coaching. So it was really hard to stay connected with all of the members. And that's kind of like one of the biggest things for me is it's the connection with my clients. I think that's why I have so many long-term clients. I mean, I've got people that have followed me from each gym. I've got people at FitBody that I've known for 10 years, and not being able to connect at that previous gym, it really kind of showed me, like, I'm not giving this my all, and it's not giving me anything back in return. So that's when I was like, I think I'm done and I need to take a break. And so that's when I hung up my trainer hat and was like, okay, I need to step away. It's just not for me anymore. So that's where that burnout really, I mean, pure exhaustion and taking the joy away. When you regret waking up in the morning, or you're just trying to find every excuse you can to have someone cover for you because you don't want to be there, that's a pretty good sign of, like, this is not the right place anymore, versus coming into a gym and you're like, heck yeah, I'm so excited to see all these people, and you have good energy leaving the place because you're pumped from what you've provided to your members and what your members have provided to you. So that's kind of where I'm back at again. So that's kind of where that burnout took me down, and then finding the right place and the right people kind of lifts you back up. So that's kind of where I felt with that.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that, because I think there's a lot of people out there in my past, and, you know, I've sat down, you know, over the years and tried to calculate how many sessions I think I've done. And, you know, I come up with this number of 40,000. You know, I don't know where that number really comes from, other than sitting down and saying, you know, back when I started, I was training, you know, anywhere from 12 to 15 people a day, just back to back to back, right? And I remember being at the rack. My very first place was at the rack, and I remember training there till close, and they closed, I think at the time they closed till 10, and my last appointment would start at 9. I'd have a 9 p.m. client. And, I remember doing that at the beginning. And so I think for a lot of those 40,000 sessions, and of course it's not 40,000 people, but, 40,000 times you walk out and say, right, how you doing? How's your day going? Right? Are you ready to rock? And, there's a level of burnout that can come in if you are putting yourself into every session. And I think I see over the years, I've seen a lot of trainers that have not done that, and they don't create that connection. And so, they might last a little bit longer than others. But I think the veterans, every veteran I've ever spoken with has at some point stepped away from training. And I think even Ryan, you could probably attest to that, to the point where you sold your businesses just like I did. And the importance of working with either a boss or an owner that you want to go to war for, it just seems like it's everything. Because I've worked at a lot of places too, and there are some places I've just felt like that this isn't the place, and then there are others I'm like, man, I will do whatever you want, and that feeling I've had in the past. So Ryan, did you feel that as well? I mean, are we talking about the same sort of feeling you had when you stepped away?
Oh yeah, I mean, so I've kind of got both ends of it, probably like you, Matt, where I've experienced the burnout before, but I also, as a gym owner, I can burn out a coach like no other. I'm the king of being able to burn somebody out, so I know what it looks like, and it's a testament to Josiah and his wife, the systems and the culture they've built at FitBody to be able to pull someone out and keep them out of that realm. And it's probably a little bit of what you had at 180 as well. Credit to Matt there. It's the culture, but it's also the systems that are in place. They've got at
Absolutely.
FitBody, at least I know because I joined it. They've got a great system for onboarding new people, and their class structure is just so dialed in. And talk about exhausting, Matt. I don't know if you know this, but I was shocked the way that every class, it's a 30-minute class at FitBody starts, is the trainer has to go around and demo every single movement. And so they would have like 16 stations. And in this little 3-minute window, the trainer has to go around and demo every movement that the class is going to encounter for that 30-minute session. So talk about physically exhausting. I was just like shocked to see this, but it's so dialed in and so precise that they've got every class mapped out to the minute, and it's just cool to see. So I can see why someone would get burned out in a different system and a lack of a system, but then I can also see how you got pulled back in, Margot, and were able to find that passion again because of the system they've got at FitBody.
Yep. Yeah, their systems, I mean, you're right. They have it nailed down to the minute. I mean, I can look at my watch and know exactly where I'm supposed to be at this minute, how much time I've got left. And it's so cool that you can work your butt off in 30 minutes. And honestly, I think of all the places where I've been, I've seen more results at FitBody than I've seen probably everywhere I've been, because
Wow.
the people that come in, the way that we build our culture, like we are able to get people to be dedicated, and we're able to get them in and out, and they don't get it exhausted from it the way that some of the other boot camp style places are. Everybody loves it. It's all about the community, and it's their favorite part of the day, coming in, getting their 30 minutes in and out. And, for us, it's not always just the workout. We go way further past the workout. I mean, right now we've got a nutrition challenge going on. So there's a handful of us coaches that are super dialed into nutrition, and we've got all kinds of packets and information and demos that we do for nutrition in addition to the workout. And we do so much community wise as well. We're working on putting together a fit fest for our members. So it's kind of like a high rocks competition, but within the gym, and just all kinds of things that are in addition to the workout, which gives you so much more hunger as a coach. It's like, oh man, we have so many cool things going on. It's not just a mundane same thing over and over and over, which is very different from a lot of places. So that adds to the hunger of wanting to get back into it. But yeah, having systems, your owners, it makes a world of difference on your coaches for sure.
So let me ask you a question, which is, such a question that was always asked me way back when I got into this, early 2000s, and the battle of the love of a one-on-one, which obviously, 180 was predominantly in that vein. Every now and then you had two people that might train with you together, but, I always wrestled with having more than one person, and it sounds like you guys have come up with a niche. What did you like about each, and what did you not like about each? Because there's pros and cons to both, right?
Yeah. Gosh, so for me, obviously I started out in the one-on-one, so I didn't really know anything different other than the one-on-one. So it wasn't until, 7 years later that I went into to Burn Bootcamp where I realized, okay, for me, I'm such I have a big energy, a big personality. I love being around people. I thrive off of, y'all know me as a party animal. Like, I love being around the groups. I love being around people. So when I got into the group fitness, I was like, heck yeah, the more people, the more hyped I am. And the more hyped I am, the more hyped they get. So it's just like this constant back and forth. So for me, that's where my love of group fitness has completely changed my perspective of coaching. But I do still enjoy the one-on-ones. We actually have a strength training class that we do it's like small group. We'll have 2, 3, maybe 4 people, and it's a completely different session from boot camp. We call it the bar because we do more barbell work. So I'm still getting a lot of that small group one-on-one training, and I wasn't doing that for a while, and it was really cool to start thinking back of like, okay, if I was coaching one-on-one, like I did at 180, what would I be doing with these people? So I loved the idea with one-on-one personal training that you can create whatever that individual person needed specifically to them. And it's really cool that you can build a workout for an individual person versus having to kind of have a blanket workout for a mass of people. So that's where the big differences are for me. Is like, I love doing something different and unique for each individual person, but I also love the energy and the fun of a group fitness class. So that's kind of the pros and cons. The cons for the one-on-one for me is sometimes it's really hard for me to get to know someone individually because I just do so much better in a group setting. So I might be a little shy actually with the one-on-ones in the beginning. So that's where I just was starting to really get burnt out at 180. The one-on-ones is just like, okay, you got to meet new people. You got to have the same conversation over and over. So that's kind of the drawback for me. But also the cons with group fitness is, dang, I've got 30 people in one workout and I've got to talk to each one of those people in 30 minutes. So, I mean, the exhaustion level is very different, but I do thrive off of that type of energy. So lots of pros, lots of cons for both ones. And I think it just comes down to learning which one each personal trainer or each coach prefers. And sometimes it takes going back and forth between the two.
That's such a powerful answer.
We're kind of sitting
Go
here
ahead.
and, Matt built his gym around one-on-one training. I built mine over the last few years around semi-private training, 3 or 4 people at a time. And then you've got a facility where you're at, Margaux, where it's group training is the main focus. And we've seen success with all 3. It was always drilled into my head from mentors in the past that, the best results are going to come from one-on-one training. But I think the truth of the matter is the best results are going to come with whatever you stick with the longest. And it's the format, the system, the type of exercise. What is it that you're going to stick with and adhere to for a long amount of time? And that's what's going to get the results. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you can yeah, I completely agree with that. As long as you're sticking to it.
Yeah, and it's funny, as you were just going through that, when I was in California, I ended up going to the school that was across the street from my gym, and I went to their meeting and spoke with the team's director. You know, they got basketball, volleyball, you know, American sports, right? There's always something. And I ended up working with their basketball team and volleyball team, the girls volleyball team, the men's basketball team. And when I did their group sessions, I mean, I took over the entire club, not because I had that many kids or the gym was that small. It was it was a decent sized facility. It's a Crunch Fitness. It's big. And I had probably 12 or 15 boys, but, you know, I would take them over to the treadmills and I'd line them up across 15 treadmills and we'd be doing sprints and lunges, and I'd climb on top of each treadmill, and, you know, if a kid was doing it easy, I'd just sit there pressing the incline button until it was like, you know, almost vertical on this one kid that was taunting me or mocking me. And, you know, I'd have them falling off the back of Stairmasters. And, I mean, I'd line them up on the turf and I'd have 15 Bosus. And I'd have these kids flipping in the air, landing on them, falling off. I mean, I had the membership of this facility would stop and watch this hour that I did, you know, multiple times a week. And I had such a wonderful experience training that team, and I'd go and watch their games, and I trained the head coach. I trained him as well privately. And so I have that feeling of what it is that you're describing, and with the girls team as well, we did more lifting with them. But, you know, there's a real fix you can get from that. I walked away from that hour. I mean, these kids were puking in the bushes and dripping wet. I mean, going through 4 or 5 towels. I mean, just destroyed. And I walked away like, you know, absolutely, yeah, exactly. For those that are listening, B kind of bopping her head like she's got energy. Those that are watching will see it. But yeah, you walk out of that hour absolutely alive like nothing else. And so I really, you know, I've always been torn. How could I recreate that for my future? And of course, to be in the school system, you've got to have a 4-year teaching degree. I've never been able to break into that, but I think that I would thrive in what you're describing. And I'm almost like, how do I figure this out now? Because I'm tapping into what you're describing, saying, wow, after burnout, there's a way to bounce back, you know, because it's a different type of burnout than a one-on-one. Because you could easily have, you know, Mr. Jones, you know, for all those Mr. Joneses out there listening, it's a bad example, but, you know, Mr. Jones shows up at 9 o'clock 3 days a week, and he just sucks the living life out of you. For whatever reason, his personality doesn't gel with yours, but he loves the training. And so at the end of each hour with him, you're like, oh my goodness, I need 6 Red Bulls just to get into the 10 o'clock appointment. And I don't even drink Red Bull, so you're screwed.
Yeah.
Right? Am I tapping into what you're describing there?
Yeah, that's 100%, 100%. You know, some people you just one-on-one, you probably don't gravitate towards them. You don't feel like you don't get any energy back from them. So you're providing so much deep soul energy just to have a conversation and get through that hour or even that 30 minutes. And it's really does. It sucks the life out of you. And when you have to bounce back to another person right after that, I mean, after 3, 4, 5, 10 clients a day, like there's nothing left in you. Yeah. 100%.
I think it also has to do with the type of trainer you are, because I'm a lot quieter and more reserved, and you know, so Matt and maybe you, Margaux, thrive off that energy and that hoopla. Whereas for me, coaching an hour-long class, I would be drained, and I would actually get a little bit more energy from the one-on-one client that I could program for. I could set the stimulus with the clock and the intervals and the scenario there, and talk a little bit about their dog and their life and feel pretty good about it. But I think it's a personality thing where, you know, for me, I just preferred the one-on-one or even the semi-private a little bit more. But I think the biggest thing as trainers, right, is that we have to not project our preference onto our clients. And I've run into a lot of coaches over the years that have done that. The gung-ho group coach who just thinks 86-year-old Betty should be rolling around in a group class, and just because that's what they like. And so as a coach, it's really about reading the situation. That's why you guys at FitBody have that option, right? Of you can go into the bar class. You know, you don't have to roll into the big 30-minute, 30-person class. And at Brickhouse where we had kind of a 3-tiered option where they could do one-on-one, they could do semi-private, they could do the groups, and you're able to really prescribe the exercise that you felt the person needed. But yeah, it's interesting to see the differences in, what would burn me out versus what would light somebody else on fire.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. It does come down to your own personality preferences. Are you an introvert or an extrovert? And I think it takes a little bit of time and experimenting with different training styles to see where you're comfortable at, So like you said, Ryan, you might be better one-on-one versus that group is just going to totally burn you out. Trying to do 3 sessions back to back is going to be like the worst thing for you when you can just have that one-on-one time and you can provide that energy for that individual. So it definitely is a big personality thing for trainers. And I think a lot of times coaches and trainers don't take the opportunity to kind of experiment with different coaching and training styles because they think, oh, personal training, I'm going to make the most money there. I got to do the one-on-ones versus a group fitness. They don't know what they're talking about. I'm not going to dive into that. So it just comes down to picking and trying different things out and just seeing where you really thrive.
Yeah, I am thinking as you've both just described, I find myself in the middle because, a lot of people that know me through, the rack and 180, and even those that might be listening to California, the Crunch Days, I think that, deep down I'd be an introvert because I would gravitate towards the one-on-ones. I do like the word prescribe. I've always thought, how do you train 30 people at once when every single one of them's got different needs? And so I think I've always gravitated towards that, and thinking of those group sessions with these lads out there, I would probably not look forward to doing 8 of those in a row. I'd have them, and then I'd get back to working with my training staff. I'd be back in there saying, right, as a trainer, how are you developing your business? How are your clients going? Let me look at your programming. I absolutely ate that up, and if I could do that full time, I'd absolutely get a real kick out of that, and then have a few things on the side just to keep me engaged with, being in that environment. But, I feel like I'm kind of between you guys. And as I sit here, I'm looking at, products of my past because I've trained you both. When I started with you, Ryan, I remember you came in as a golf pro that you had not a lot of lifting experience or very little or any kind of exposure to it. And mine, I remember, I've got videos that we made of you, little clips that we put together for 180 Life, a program that we started there in a golf academy. And I remember taking you to the cleaners. I mean, you would be absolutely destroyed. And I've got videos of it for those that want to see it, but just absolutely face down, puking everywhere, like just absolutely gutted. And you'd show up the next day, like, what's next?
Yeah.
And, now I'm sure you've drawn from that in your past, and B, to be reminded of the fact that I said to you, hey, listen, I can't give you a client straight up, but, come in here and go through my programming and let me put you through your paces. And I remember doing this with each of my trainers over the years. I want to teach you what it's like to feel like a client. It wasn't that do this because I'm right, there's no other way. It was if you have never been through the process of starting from scratch, having a trainer that you answer to and are accountable to, and knowing what that feels like, the times you've let your trainer down, the times that you feel like you've done well, the engagement, the trainer's going to dig in on me kind of stuff, right? If you've never been in those shoes, you've got nothing to draw from, emotionally and physically, spiritually, all these things that you can take with you into those sessions. So I'm like so excited to see that, I've had an impact on both your paths that almost sort of went in different directions, but you've both been able to get through the burnout phases and still give. And so you're actually inspiring me back now as I contemplate my future. But that to me is the testimony to who taught me, because I had mentors that influenced how I did it too, right? So I wasn't inventing something. I was passing on what was taught to me, and I feel like it's worked and been a blessing to you guys. But can you just throw us back to some of those early days? Because from my memory, you couldn't do a push-up. I mean, you were just like hanging off the bar to do a chin. I mean, you were like, hey, I'm brand new. I don't know anything. So for those that are listening that know you, they might know you as Margaux or MB, but I really hope there's a lot of your, fans that will listen to this. Can you just give them a bit of an insight into what it was like when you first said, hey, I'd like to be in this business. Matt, can you train me? Walk me through what you felt and what you could have.
Yeah, you're right. When I came in, I don't think I could do like a real full push up. And I certainly could not do a chin up or a pull up. I had no idea what any of the machines were. Like I walked in there and, 180 was such a beautiful facility with awesome, cool machines. And I looked around and I was like, this is terrifying. I don't know what any of this is. How am I going to tell somebody how to use it? So yeah, I came in, I didn't know a lick of anything. So, learning how to do push-ups, learning how to do squats. I mean, getting cardio and endurance in, like, I could run on a treadmill, but you can put anybody on a treadmill. But, teaching somebody how to use their body mechanics and teaching somebody, what all these muscle groups are, you can read a book and learn that way. But I learned so much more being in the facility with you and learning, okay, this is what, pushing motions are. This is pulling motions. These are, hinging motions. It makes a difference of being in facility with someone that can put you through the ringer so that you can then turn into being someone to put people through the ringer. So yeah, when I came in, I knew nothing. Now I'm rocking out 25, 50 push-ups like it's nothing. And like Ryan was saying earlier, at FitBody, we do demo and we're on the mic telling people what the workout is going to be. We have 4 minutes to get around these 8, 12, 15 different exercises. And I have to explain how to do this movement, show them how to do this movement, all within that 4-minute time frame. So being able to think back is like, there's no way when I was, 23 years old at that point, whatever 13 years ago was. And there was no way I thought, oh, I'm going to have to tell somebody and show somebody how to do this movement that I can't even do myself. So it's really cool to see over time that having Matt and 180 put you through all of these things when you don't know what it is. Everyone starts from the bottom somewhere, right? So it's really cool thinking back, like, yeah, I didn't know crap back then. And, just coming in and learning how to do all these different movements. And now the way that I kind of teach my new coaches, because we have a new influx of coaches coming in, is we're getting ready to open a brand new facility in Salem. So our 3rd facility. So we're hiring new coaches. And now I'm in the position of kind of where Matt was. I'm now the teacher. So I get to coach all these new coaches. And one of the biggest ways that I love getting them out of their box is telling them, okay, if you're going to explain a movement, I want you to tell it, or I want you to coach it as if the person can't see you. So, because a lot of times people will be like, oh, well, just do this, but you're not really explaining anything. So I like to tell my coaches, I need you to explain it in a way that if someone that was blind or someone that's not looking at you, they could do it based on the way that you told them. And I feel like I kind of learned that at 180. Like, you got to know how to do the moves and you got to know how to tell how to do the moves, which are 2 very different things. So I don't know where that tangent came off from, but that's
that answered the question beautifully. And I think, Ryan, you could probably relate to it as well, because you probably went through it to a degree yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's one of the things I'll be interested to hear how you deal with it, Margaux, because I love coaches that start their journeys with one-on-one coaching. I think it's incredibly hard to teach a coach how to be a group coach straight off the bat if they haven't coached someone one-on-one. Because contrary to a lot of people's beliefs, it's much easier to actually hide in a group setting than it is in a one-on-one setting. In a group setting, it's very easy to just become a clock runner and a cheerleader and not really do anything. You can't do that in a one-on-one session. You have to teach movement, you have to watch movement and teach mechanics. So do you guys do something where you train your folks one-on-one, or how do you really dial them in if you're bringing them into a group setting on getting them up to speed with kind of where you were on your background?
Yeah. So it kind of goes back to what we were saying, how Matt put us through the ringer before he gave us a client. And we basically do the same thing. We encourage all of our potential new coaches, hey, we want to see you showing up to sessions. You got to do the workouts. You got to take the workouts and you got to watch the workouts. So that's kind of the starting line. So one of the really cool things about FitBody is the majority of our coaches are actually members. They were previously members. So they kind of already have an idea of what FitBody is about. What does a session look like? What does a session feel like? We've only had maybe one or two coaches that were just kind of off the street. So the way that we deal with them is they got to show up, they got to take the workouts, they got to be present. And before they even get on the mic or on the floor, like they're taking it and they're learning what does a session from start to finish feel like. And that's, kind of goes back to the same thing that Matt and I, and with you, Ryan, that we all did was you got to know what it feels like before you can coach it. So that's kind of where we start. And then once they've looked like that they've kind of gotten a feel of what the workouts are, it's usually like 2-3 weeks worth of them just going through the workouts. Then we start to incorporate them by being what we call a floor coach. So a lot of times we'll have 2 coaches for each session. So there's your coach that's on the mic, and they're the one that's really leading the whole class, building the energy, keeping everybody under control. And then you've got your floor coach, who is the one that's kind of going around and being more one-on-one with people on the floor. They're checking form, they're helping people out. So they kind of are like your floaters, just going around to different people and making sure that they're kind of like the head coach's backup coach. They're kind of the assistant on the floor. So we kind of get them in that position, and we'll stick them to like one station, 2 different exercises within a shift or a work period. And they have to really just nail down those 2-3 different individual movements. So once they really get a hang of being the floor coach and knowing how to provide that one-on-one feedback, making sure that everyone's form is good and they can kind of start to learn how to pick on people the right way and encourage people the right way, then we start to add them into putting the mic on. And they might be the ones, they'll start maybe with doing the demo, and they will go through just the demo, and then they'll go back to the floor coach. So it's really just a building process of getting them used to being on the mic and being used to keeping eyes on each individual person throughout the workout. So it does kind of build off of that one-on-one time, but in that group setting. So it's just a building block over time. And then eventually they've got the mic on for the whole session. So it takes about 2-3 months. We basically give like 90 days of like, this is your time frame. You got to be ready by this 90 day. If you're not ready, maybe it's not the right place. If you're ready, you got to be able to run a session on your own and be successful and safe all at the same time. So that's kind of where we work with brand new coaches.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's funny because I know, the first thing I ever taught my trainers, first rule of being a great trainer is I'll never injure my client. And of course, injuries happen and we do what we can. But you said something in the middle of that where, they're walking around and the ability and the knowledge and the timing of whether to pick on someone or encourage them. We've talked about that in a previous episode. Am I giving someone a slap upside the head today, or are they getting a hug? I think that's something that is really hard to teach. And so I know that you guys are looking for that, as it sounds like you guys are hiring and looking for that. But so give me just a final overview of your role within FitBody and what you guys are doing, and kind of just put your club and your position out there for everyone that's listening.
So now as the head coach, I get to help write all of the workouts for both the Roanoke facility, and we have a facility in Daleville, and we'll be opening one in Salem. So I basically help do all the programming. So it's kind of a little competition between me and Josiah, our owner, and our other head coach in Daleville. Between the 3 of us, it's kind of like, ooh, whose workout's going to be the hardest? Like, there's nothing more satisfying than when the members are like, Margaux, was that your workout? Oh, it was terrible, but it was the best thing ever. And you just, my clients even gave me like a pair of devil horns to wear. So, I'm pretty notorious for the programs that I write. So I do all the helping with the writing of programs. And then in addition, it's helping keep my team, all of my coaches. We have 7, I think there's 7 of us coaches in Roanoke, making sure that they're all on top of who the members are, making sure that they're doing all the workouts appropriately. So we'll make videos of what each day's workout is going to be, so that all of our coaches know, okay, we're doing these specific moves. This is how you do the moves. These are the cues to use for all these different types of moves. So we kind of tag team, the three of us, putting those videos together, keeping my coaches accountable, making sure that they know their stuff, and just making sure that my coaches, I'm kind of the one that they lean on. If they've got questions, they come to me. How do I do this? What's this? What's, there's a person with this injury. What do we do with it? So they kind of come to me. I'm kind of the middle person between my coaches and Josiah, and kind of just helping make sure the place runs smoothly. So, and having a good time, and kind of, I try to lead by example. If I come in with a good attitude, my coaches are going to come in with a good attitude, and people feed off of that as well. So it's just kind of being the leader of the pack is what it comes down to. But so, yeah, so we're looking for more coaches for Salem, and I'll be helping to train those new coaches as well. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Well, for anyone out there that's in the area, please look up or get in touch with Margaux Bellinger at FitBody Bootcamp, because, if I was in the area, I'd definitely come down and put an application in, just so that we could team up again. Because as I sit here and I look at you guys and the amount of lives that I think we've changed accumulatively, it really does matter. We're not making fun of any other career path out there, but, we're in a position where we're trying to actually change people's lives. And so for you being on the show and still in the business, it just means a lot to me. And I see a vision one day, that, somehow we all partner up again, because, to hear that you're still doing it and back in there just warms my heart. So,
yeah,
that's such a blessing to know that everybody back there in Roanoke, Salem, Daleville are being impacted by, something that started, more than a dozen years ago, and is still going now. And I see big things for you. So that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. I would love nothing more than to have Matt come down so I could kick his butt one more time. Payback, Matt, payback.
Yeah, wait till I've got two good arms again. My podcast is shared. I'm a little behind. Give me another year or two and I'll be
We'll
back
get there.
where I need to be. But I would feel safe in your hands, even in my injured state and recovery state. I would feel very comfortable in your care as a trainer. And I think that anyone out there listening really needs to get down there and check this place out, because it sounds to me like you've got it all covered. And if I was in the area, that's where I'd belong. Awesome job. And, we appreciate you being on. I don't know if, Ryan, you've got any other questions, but I'm pumped. I'm ready to, go out and find my local FitBody Bootcamp now,
Right? Yeah, let's team up.
Well, and that's what I was going to say, Matt. Unfortunately, FitBody is a franchise, but unfortunately, what I've learned is that franchises still have a lot of leeway in how they do things. And what I'll say is, when I moved to Jacksonville, I tried out two different FitBody boot camps here in Jacksonville, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, they just weren't the same as what you guys have going on up in Roanoke, Margaux. That's just a testament to Josiah and Lydia, what they're doing in Roanoke
Yeah.
specifically, because these fit bodies down here, they were good, but they weren't, the culture wasn't the same, the programming wasn't the same, the systems weren't quite the same. And I ended up not joining a gym down here
Yeah.
because of that. So really just a testament to what you guys are doing up there and all that. But what I noticed, there were not a ton of guys in the classes. What's y'all split? Is it 80-20 female? What's the ratio?
We're definitely have more female, but I would say probably in the last 6 months, we've had a lot of guys start to join. Have a lot of husbands are now coming in with their wives, or the wives are saying like, hey, come, just come try it out one time with us. And then after that first session with them, we suck them in immediately. So we've had a pretty big influx of new male members joining us, which is awesome. Having the guys in the gym, and they feed off of each other, and I feed off of the guys too. Training with Matt and with Fry, like I've kind of always had I can stick with the dudes. Like I'm gonna work out with the dudes. So I actually really love when the guys come in. I kind of gravitate towards them. So we've had a lot more males coming in and joining, and they think of FitBody as like, oh, it's boot camp, like it's all women. It's not going to be hard enough. I'm not going to lift the weights. But no, we actually do. Our strength workout days and our Metcon days, like they are butt kickers. And we've got big weights. We've got barbells. We have, all the plate sizes you could need. We've got all the heavy dumbbells. We've got a bunch of brand new heavy kettlebells. So it's the guys come in there and they're like, oh, I didn't realize that you could truly get some massive muscle building up in here in that 30-minute time frame. I mean, every dude that walks in for the first time, they leave very humbled after one of my sessions. And then they come back and they're like, okay, this is the real deal. So it's starting to catch on a little bit more and a little bit more of the guys coming in. And typically one guy will come in, he'll bring in a friend and then it just kind of builds off of that. So it's definitely growing for males to join FitBody for sure.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and I think that's important to hear because, as this podcast is centered towards guys, Ryan and I thought really hard about, do we have a lady on the show at some point? And I know that we connected outside of this chat just briefly because you had this realization of, wow, these are the two guys that kind of, influenced my past a little bit in some way or another there and connected. And you're like, wait a minute. It's that Matt and it's that Ryan. And so we're hell-bent on helping men out there and, those going through a really tough time. And it's been amazing because over the last couple of weeks, I've run into some, female conversations that I didn't know they were listening. And, so I remember reaching back out to Ryan saying, man, I'm getting some feedback. I mean, just people I, meet at the store kind of thing, like, not completely random. There's a connection to who they are and how they heard about it, but they're females and they've said, wow, I love what you're doing and putting it out there. And of course, it's like, oh, wow, well, we're having an impact on everybody. And so we talked a lot about, do we have a female on the show? And when you connected with us, I said, this seems to me like it's a divine appointment to have you on the show and knowing the background. And so, I feel so blessed that somehow we got connected and to have you on and be a testimony to all those women out there that, listen, Ryan and I are doing something to help guys out there and we're helping women at the same time. And you're in a position where you're helping both day in, day out. And I think that, everybody needs to find somewhere to work out, right? Because if you're not working out, then your brain's not working, your body's not working, and you can let things, take over you. You're not, guys aren't the only ones that get stuck in addiction and vices and need dopamine hits, right? Women do too. And so,
absolutely,
I think it's everybody that you've probably seen, and I think you've probably even got yours. Sounds like, training a group of people is a bit of a hit for you, dopamine hit for you, right? So you need that fix too. Am I right there?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, for everybody that's listening, we are trying to come up with content because we're two guys and we're looking at it from our perspective. But, I see B, maybe we could have you on as a guest again one time and tap into some of those things for the female listeners that, they're going through some stuff too. They're struggling. And I know that you've been through so much and, we've just tipped the iceberg here and we're nearly at an hour. And I feel like I've got so many more questions that I want to ask you that I know could help our female audience. But for women out there that aren't working out and think that they don't need to, can you just kind of wrap us up and maybe make this the finale here? But can you just, speak to the females out there that think that working out and lifting weights is just for the dudes?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times females have such a fear of lifting because they feel like they're going to get bulky and look like a dude, when in reality, that's so not the case. I mean, I lift, 3, 4, 5 times a week and, I'm picking up heavy stuff. I mean, just on Friday, we've got these brand new 110-pound kettlebells and I'm just squatting it like it was nothing. I mean, and I'm not a bulky person, like I'm pretty small, but, women, I think, kind of get in this negative headspace that lifting is just for guys, but really the way that you're able to use your body to pick up these weights and how it resonates through your daily life is incredible. So I was really thinking about this the other day. We have so many moms that come in to the gym and I try to tell them, like, guys, you can pick up heavier than the 15, 20 pound dumbbells. Like, do you know how heavy your grocery bags are? Like you carry, I mean, how many moms are picking up 4 bags of groceries that are full on each arm? It's like, I guarantee that's 40 pounds right there. and you've probably got a child in tow too. Like you can lift whatever you're lifting in that grocery bag. The 20 pounds isn't going to do it. You can lift that 40, you can lift that 50, you can go heavy, and it's going to make your daily life so much easier if you push past that thought of, I'm going to have too much muscle, because you won't. When you build that muscle, you're actually burning the fat within the body, because having that more muscle requires so much more energy from your body that you're going to burn out all of that fat, which, that's kind of where women are like, oh, I just want to tone up. I just want to lose weight. Once really, no, you want to build muscle so that you can have that smaller frame if that's what you're going for. If you're wanting to lose weight, you're not wanting to lose weight. You're wanting to lose fat. And the only way to lose the fat is if you pick up the darn weights and build the muscle. You can do cardio all day long. Sure, you'll have a great heart maybe, and you'll have good endurance, but you're not going to lose the fat. So that's kind of my spiel on picking up the weights, because it's going to benefit you mentally, physically, and just in your daily life. And the last thing I'll go about with on this one is I was talking to a bunch of my clients yesterday, because I was out kayaking with my husband, and I was on the paddleboard, and I was paddling on my knees because we were going through some rapids. And I was like, some of these movements that I'm doing right here, right now, I felt while I was training 2 days ago, and I'm training to do the activities that are outside of the gym. And I think if a lot of women and men too, if they realize you can be training to do activities that are not gym related. So a lot of these movements that we're doing are resonating with people in their daily lives. So that was kind of one thing that I told my clients to think about this week, is think about some of these exercises that we're doing today, and how do you notice that you're using it in your real life? So if people start to think picking up the weights and using your body for your daily movements, it makes a huge difference. So that's kind of my last little dive into that one.
Love it. Margaux, we'll link all your stuff down in the comments, but where can people find you?
So you can find me on Facebook as Margaux Bellinger, or you can find me on Instagram. Marbell321 is my Insta. I also have my own business page, MB Media Management. So anybody that's looking for social media assistance, I have another page for that. And also FitBody Bootcamp. We've got our Roanoke FitBody page, and we have a Daleville FitBody page, and soon to be Salem page. So you can find me on those socials there.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'll link all that for folks to be able to reach out and find you.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad to hear things are going well for you. I'd like to dig in, more on, another show maybe, but for now, thank him for, sharing you with us today. I look forward to getting this out there to people that maybe don't know what you're doing down there in Roanoke.
Yeah, I loved it. Thank you so much for having me. I mean, we have so much more to get into, but man, this was quite the catch up. I mean, it is very cool thinking back on time. Like I've turned into the person I am because of starting with Matt in 180. So it's really cool to put all this together after many, many years apart. So thanks for having me.
Thank you.
You got it. Guys, like, subscribe, share the podcast, and go see Margaux at FitBody Bootcamp.
Come on down. We're ready for you. It's the last place you'll go.
All right, guys, everybody out there, men and women, stay strong. We will catch you guys next week.
All right, guys. See ya.